Fraud is no longer just a risk for auto dealers, it has become part of everyday operations. Experian Automotive's Fraud Protect solution helps you catch income, identity, and trade-in fraud in real time without slowing down the sale. Stop fraud. Keep deals moving. Experian Automotive's Fraud Protect.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, Mitsubishi's U.S. dealer network is shrinking fast. Jaguar Land Rover teams up with Stellantis on U.S. vehicles, and Ford's chief marketing officer is leaving. Plus, Hyundai is overhauling its service operations after ranking at the bottom of customer satisfaction surveys for 9 years.
She was angry, frustrated, disappointed, and you could hear it in her voice. That is what bad service looks like. And Hyundai knows this, and they are making it a big priority so that there are no more Cheryl Nichols out there.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry. Mitsubishi's U.S. dealer network is shrinking fast. Since early 2019, the brand has lost 56 stores. That's the third biggest drop among mainstream brands. Mitsubishi dealerships are averaging just 15 new vehicle sales per month. To address that, the company's cutting low performers and trying to recruit stronger operators. But dealers, they're frustrated. According to data reviewed by Automotive News, nearly 60% of Mitsubishi's first quarter sales went to fleet buyers. Some dealers are so fed up, they're just walking away, liquidating inventory thousands of dollars below invoice just to get out. Jaguar Land Rover is teaming up with Stellantis to co-develop vehicles in the U.S. The move could give the luxury brand access to Stellantis factories in America, helping it avoid import tariffs in its biggest market. For now, the two companies signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding, but they're staying quiet on any manufacturing partnership. It's the first U.S. deal for Stellantis CEO Antonio Filosa, who made it clear partnerships are central to his turnaround strategy. He'll share more details at a Capital Markets Day on Thursday. And Ford's global chief marketing officer, Lisa Matarazzo, is leaving the automaker June 1st. Matarazzo came from Toyota 3 years ago and launched Ford's first brand campaign in more than a decade, Ready, Set, Ford, which rolled out last September. Ford isn't saying why she's leaving. Dean Stoneley, executive director of global product marketing, will step in on an interim basis. And those are today's headlines. You can find more details on all those stories at autonews.com. Mercedes-AMG just unveiled its first all-electric performance car. The GT four-door coupe will have more than 1,100 horsepower and technology borrowed from Formula One and the AMG 1 hypercar. Our own Jack Walsworth was on site for the reveal in Los Angeles and spoke with our own Jake Neer about what makes this different from Mercedes' earlier EV efforts.
Jack Walsworth, welcome back to Daily Drive.
Hey, Jake. Good to be here.
So you got to go out to LA to check out this Mercedes EV. I'm curious. I mean, this is a fascinating vehicle. How does this fit into Mercedes electric vehicle and electrification goals? What are they hoping from it? And what were your impressions?
Yeah, I would say this is Mercedes-AMG's first electric vehicle. So AMG is their performance, basically sub-brand. So from that standpoint, it's a pretty important vehicle. I think a lot of the Mercedes execs yesterday talked about how they've got a lot of good feedback on this car from development. The big thing will be can this win over AMG customers? AMG vehicles for decades have been known for their very loud, growly V8 engines, which this vehicle obviously does not have. So it kind of seems like this model in particular kind of will serve as almost like a test balloon to see what AMG customer demand will be for electric vehicles. EVs by nature have quick acceleration, are speedy. So it seemed like Mercedes really had to amp it up, not to be too punny here, but amp it up a little bit higher and make the experience worthwhile or worth AMG customers to make that jump. So it kind of seems like a testing the waters in a way, and Mercedes AMG does have some more EVs coming. So it again kind of seems like this will be the first step in a longer journey. But yeah, I mean, it's got all the performance specs, super quick, super loud design, colors, all that good stuff. So it looks like an AMG, feels like an AMG. How customers accept it or not will remains to be seen.
This is so fascinating to me how they are putting so much emphasis on the performance here. Mercedes says this architecture is designed for outputs over 1,300 horsepower. Just walk us through a little bit what that means for where AMG is positioning itself in this space, especially against competitors like, the upcoming electric Porsche models and other, EVs that are really meant to capture the interest of real enthusiasts, I would say.
Yeah, I mean those numbers are eye popping, like you said, and the ones that the vehicles that will launch won't have quite as much that power. There's still one of I think the 55 will have 900 horsepower or so, and the more powerful GT63 will have about only 1100 horsepower, which is still
Only,
a
yeah.
big number. But yeah, I mean those figures are I think intentional because that is it's an easy way to get someone's attention who's used to driving vehicles with a lot of power under the hood from the engine. So in a way it seems like they almost had to use kind of like a audacious amount of power to really get people maybe get their foot in the door at least, or get that door opened. And yeah, as we're seeing from other performance brands, huge horsepower numbers it's almost like the space race type thing where one automaker releases a car with X amount of horsepower, and the next one has 50, 100 more than that. So while Mercedes probably has is on the higher end today, who knows 6 months, a year from now where that stands. It's one of those things that people expect an AMG vehicle to have a lot of power, but it seems like Mercedes is really leaning into the EV aspect of the car, and with the motors, the e-motors that they're using, those power figures just go up to like these kind of insane, hard to comprehend type figures. And I think that kind of speaks to maybe they're trying to reach people that way.
You can hear more about Mercedes-AMG's new EV on this week's bonus episode of Daily Drive. That'll be available Sunday morning. Coming up, Hyundai's plan to fix its service problems. That's next on Daily Drive.
Fraud is no longer just a risk for auto dealers. It has become part of everyday operations. According to Experian Automotive, nearly 9 out of 10 dealers say fraud is a top concern, and 70% say it's on the rise. We're talking about real deals slipping through, costing dealerships $10,000, even $20,000 per incident. And it's not just one type of fraud. You've got forged income documents, fabricated salaries, synthetic identities, even trade-in scams. The worst part, catching fraud often slows everything down, adding friction to deals and frustrating legitimate customers. That's where Experian Automotive's Fraud Protect solution comes in. It's designed specifically for dealers, helping you quickly detect income, identity, and trade-in ownership before it hits your bottom line. No guesswork, no unnecessary delays, just faster, more consistent verification so you can protect your profits while keeping the buying experience smooth. Because the goal isn't just to stop fraud, it's to keep good deals moving. Experian Automotive's Fraud Protect. No more. Risk less. Sell smarter.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. Hyundai has been at the bottom of J.D. Power customer service satisfaction surveys for 9 years, even as its sales have surged 36% over the past decade. Now, the automaker is rolling out new initiatives to overhaul its service operations, including mobile service vans and programs to help dealers run more efficiently. Our own Richard Truitt has been reporting on this story. He spoke with our own Jake Neer about what went wrong and Hyundai's plan to fix it.
Richard Truitt, great to have you back here on Daily Drive.
Thanks, Jake. It's great to be here.
So you recently reported on this story that Hyundai is overhauling its service operations. What's going on?
Few companies have been more successful in the United States than Hyundai. Their sales have increased about 36% in the last 10 years. And, if they have overlooked something, it's the fact that the dealerships were not set up to handle such an increase in volume. And for about the last 9 years, they have been at the bottom of the J.D. Power customer service satisfaction surveys. And that's a very rare thing for Hyundai to be so low, because they get all their vehicles, well, not all, but many of their vehicles win awards for car of the year, truck of the year. I mean, they are building great stuff. But when it comes to getting them fixed, they've really dropped the ball. And so what they're doing is, starting this summer, they're rolling out a bunch of initiatives to try to fix that. About 150 dealers are going to put some mobile service vans on the road. The goal of that is to take work away from the dealer and bring it to the consumer, so that they don't tie up service space. And they're going to help dealers figure out how to run their service departments more efficiently in every part of it, in terms of, like, when someone calls to set the appointment until they hand the car off, because every time that there is a lapse in efficiency, it slows the whole operation down. And here's the thing that makes Hyundai a little bit different, Jake. When you buy a car today, it's going to have a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty and a 3-year 36,000 mile bumper to bumper. Hyundai doesn't do that. Hyundai offers a 10-year 100,000 mile powertrain warranty and a 5-year 60,000 mile bumper to bumper. What does that mean? It means they have more cars out there under warranty than just about anybody else. There's like 9 million Hyundais on the road, and a lot of them have warranties in effect. And when something breaks, they're going to go back to the dealer. Bottom line, Hyundai dealers have been overwhelmed and they can't keep up. And Hyundai's trying to fix that.
It's sort of a good problem to have, unless I'm, not correct about this, that what's really driving this is just this 36% increase in sales since 2017, right?
Well, Jake, it's good when you sell a lot of cars, but it's bad when you can't fix them, because dealers are afraid that if they can't get cars fixed and people back on the road quickly, they're going to lose customers. I had one dealer tell me that a customer is only a sales customer for one day when they buy the car. And then from that day forward, they're a service customer, and they have to take care of that customer or else they're going to lose them. Hyundai understands the importance of this. And I think they've got both barrels loaded and they're gunning to get this fixed as quickly as they can. Why did it take so long? Well, they had to put in place the infrastructure to get this fixed before they could start rolling out these programs. Now, for about the last 5 or 6 years, Hyundai dealers have been building new stores with bigger service bays, and there are about 4,000 more service bays online today than there was back in 2021. So now they have the infrastructure there. Now they can start rolling out the procedures to start filling up these bays and getting cars fixed quickly and back on the road.
Let's talk a little bit about the engine recall factor here. You write that the engine failures and recalls have cost Hyundai more than $5 billion and can tie up a bay for 2 days per repair. How much of the service crisis is directly attributable to those engine issues versus just being overwhelmed by pure volume?
I can't give you a percentage, but I can tell you that the Hyundai executives I spoke with recognized that that was one major reason why their service satisfaction plunged, because when you have a car that needs service, you've got to call up and make an appointment to get your car in. But if they can't give you an appointment for 3 weeks out, what are you going to do? You got a broken car, you got to get it fixed. An engine replacement is amongst the most labor intensive repairs that a car dealer can do. They really don't want to do that kind of work, because it takes a service bay offline for a couple of days to make that switch. And Hyundai has had many engine problems going back now about maybe about 13 or 14 years. And they've largely gotten that stuff fixed, but there's still the lingering effects of that. And they're working through it.
You spoke with Jeff Rosen. He's Hyundai's dealer council chairman. He added 10 bays and saw immediate improvement. So sort of a success story in terms of what you're talking about. But dealership renovations aren't cheap. We know that. What's the investment dealers are making here? And is Hyundai helping fund these upgrades through the GDSI program?
No, I don't believe Hyundai is, but the payoff is that, as we've reported previously, Hyundai is in the middle of a major expansion. They're going to be a full line automaker in the U.S. with trucks and vans, and they're going to be like, in terms of Toyota, they're going to have a vehicle for everybody. So these upgrades that dealers are making are not only an investment in providing better service, but they're also an investment for the future, because Hyundai is preparing for a major increase in volume with all these new vehicles coming, and dealers have got to be in a position to service them And I believe that the GDSI stores will give them the square footage and the ability to take care of customers in a timely manner when these new vehicles start hitting the road.
Maybe to highlight the importance of that, can you tell a Cheryl Nichols story? It's a pretty brutal example here.
Yeah. You know, when I was writing the story, I was looking at numbers on a page, and then, Jake, we've all suffered bad customer service from somewhere. We've hung on the phone in phone mail menus and talking to AI chatbots. You know how frustrating that is. I wanted to put kind of a human spin on what bad service looks like. Cheryl Nichols is a photographer in Mobile, Alabama, and she and her husband paid cash for Palisade calligraphy. That is the top of the model, most luxurious Palisade that they make, $60,000. And 2 years into the ownership, the self-leveling rear shocks failed. And they were under warranty, no problem, right? Wrong, big problem. Hyundai couldn't get the parts. And so they said if you drive the vehicle, you could possibly damage it. Now, they had another car, so she parked the car, I believe it was in late February, and she called the dealership every week, have my parts come in, and they would say, no, they're on back order. And she called Hyundai's corporate, and they could not give her any information on when these parts would be delivered. She told me that in late May or early June, she's heading up to Michigan on a long road trip for a family vacation. And she finally got tired of waiting, and she traded the Palisade in on a smaller Santa Fe, which is not something that she wanted to do, but she needed a vehicle and she couldn't wait any longer. And so she was angry, frustrated, disappointed, and you could hear it in her voice. That is what bad service looks like. And Hyundai knows this, and they are making it a big priority so that there are no more Cheryl Nichols out there.
Yeah, and on that note, Hyundai seems pretty optimistic in their tone about how quickly they'll be able to solve these problems or at least improve on them. They're saying that 2 years from now, they'll be climbing back up the JD Power rankings. What's your sense from talking to executives and dealers, how realistic that is given how far they've fallen so far?
You know, if you're an executive at an automaker, you don't want to make a prediction that you can't meet. And I believe, actually, Jake, that they're going to do it before that, because the data that you see on JD Power is what they call trailing data. It is from last year or maybe the year before. They've already started instituting some of these programs. Those 4,000 bays have been online now for a couple of years. I would bet that when the next JD Power customer satisfaction survey comes up, you might see Hyundai move up a little bit. But if you're Hyundai and you're an executive talking to the press, you're not going to make any promises that you're not exactly 100% sure that you can keep. So I think that with the programs that Hyundai is rolling out, that they're going to eventually get there. They totally get the importance of doing this, and they have an executive who did it in Canada. The Canadian market had some of the same problems, and he was able to fix it up there. And so they imported him to the U.S. to do the same thing here. So they've got a good plan. Can they make it work? If I'm a gambling man, I'm going to say yes.
You heard it here first. Richard Pruitt, thank you so much for joining us on Daily Drive.
Welcome, Jake.
That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to automotive news journalists Jack Walsworth, Urvash Kakaria, and Michael Martinez for their reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on Hyundai's service overhaul, Mercedes-AMG's new EV, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoyed the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.